Have you hit record yet?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We need some better. Well, hey everybody, welcome to our leadership series for our first one. Is it our first or our second one for the month of February? Maybe our second one for the month of February. And so first of all, I got to get through some housekeeping matters here before we get into the show. So first of all, I'll talk about our sponsor, which is the law firm of Hull and Chandler. So Hull and Chandler is a client-centered law firm providing legal services to individuals, families, businesses, and nonprofits in Charlotte and throughout the Carolinas. Our award-winning attorneys help clients solve problems and create ongoing value. You can find our attorneys advising entrepreneurs about starting businesses and advising investors about looking to acquire businesses. You can find our attorneys serving as general counsel to nonprofit organizations, ensuring that they stay legally compliant. You can also find our attorneys helping families plan their estates, and you can find our attorneys drafting leases for a new shopping center that will employ hundreds in our community. You can find our attorneys in court making sure a business gets paid for money owed, and you can find our attorneys making sure victims of auto accidents get made whole because of someone else's negligence. The law firm of Hull and Chandler is proud to sponsor the Leadership Series, a program where Hull and Chandler attorney Rocky Cavagna, that's me, interviews local and regional leaders in the nonprofit, business, and government sphere to discuss the interplay of law, business, and the social dynamics within the context of our continuously changing times. So again, I am your host. My primary practice area at Hull and Chandler is providing legal services to the unique needs of nonprofits and public charities. Prior to coming on board at Hull and Chandler, I was an executive director at a multi-million-dollar federally funded community action agency, a 501c3. I was a clinical educator at a now defunct ABA law school that you may or may not have heard of in the Charlotte area. And I was a legal services attorney representing community-based organizations that built affordable housing. So that's a little bit of our administrative. So we'll go into what today's show is about. So thank you for coming in. So it has been almost an entire year since COVID-19 totally disrupted everybody in America's way of life. The use of remote technologies like Zoom and Microsoft Teams has become the quote unquote new normal for businesses, nonprofits, schools, and government. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a severe impact on our schools. Most public and private schools shut down last March when COVID-19 started to really take hold in our country and state. While there was hope that children returning for school in the fall of 2020 would be allowed to come back in, it wasn't quite the case across the board, as there was really no vaccination remedy in sight. While some schools allowed live attendance or some hybrid version, quite more have gone to more remote means of learning for this school year. Recently, here in the state of North Carolina, our Governor Roy Cooper has been pushing for schools to reopen, which in many ways has put the Democratic governor and his party at odds with teacher organizations such as the North Carolina Association of Educators. However, the facts do provide that many children are slipping behind because of remote learning, particularly younger children of color, which sadly are also the group that seems disproportionately affected by COVID-19 infections. The purpose of today's show is not to get into a political debate about the pros and cons of quote unquote reopening schools, but it does set the context of what today's show is about, which is how nonprofits that provide youth services, sometimes providing services schools can't or really just don't do anymore, have had to adapt to the new normal of children in remote learning situations. As schools move towards quote unquote reopening, does this mean that nonprofits serving the youth who attend these schools will move towards reopening? And what exactly does reopening actually mean for youth mission nonprofits? Joining us today is Sarah Cherne, CEO of Junior Achievement. As I'm prone to do, I like to look at our guests' LinkedIn pages and see whether they have any testimonials. Well, Sarah has some really good ones. And here's one I think that sums up Sarah and her work at Junior Achievement. Quote, Sarah is a visionary leader who is having a major impact on young people in and around the Charlotte area. As president and CEO of Junior Achievement of Central Carolinas, she and the organization she leads is helping school-age children acquire the financial and leadership skills they need to become successful members of our community. The passion that she brings to her job is infectious. As Junior Achievement is a not-for-profit organization, Sarah needs to have the ability to bring on boards hundreds of volunteers, board members, and donors who will also share the vision that she has for making a difference in the lives of these young people. This is Sarah's sweet spot, and she delivers on Junior Achievement's mission every day. It has been a real pleasure to work with Sarah on several projects. She is an inspiring person to be around. And we are pleased as punch to have Sarah as our guest today on today's Leadership Series. So I'd like to welcome to our show, Sarah Cherne. Thank you. Yay. we need a applause track, Shannon. We'll put that on our budget, on our diminishing budget here. So, but anyway, so Sarah, welcome to today's discussion. Before we get into today's discussion, I have learned to take this from my friend Patton McDowell, who has a great podcast, which is called the Your Path to Nonprofit Leadership. So definitely, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can go onto iTunes, Spotify, whatever, and subscribe. But he likes to ask some of his guests, and I will crib that from him and ask this of you, Sarah. Sarah, what was your path to nonprofit leadership?
Oh, I didn't have a path to nonprofit leadership planned in my life. Actually, my master's is in criminology, which really doesn't qualify me for being a CEO, but
or maybe it does. I
don't know. I mean, the journey, I think nonprofit work really found me as I was in graduate school, and I actually met the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters. I was his server at a restaurant. And I had shared with him I was graduating. We got to talking about all different kinds of solutions for youth, and he offered me a job. And so it was the first real professional job that I'd had, other than some jobs after college. And it was really an opportunity to create some programs. I actually created 2 youth serving programs through mentoring at Big Brothers Big Sisters that became national very early in my career. And that really just led me to fall in love with mission oriented work. And so I've had the ability and actually the privilege to serve at 3 national nonprofits throughout my career. Big Brothers Big Sisters being one, the Red Cross being another, and then now most recently Junior Achievement.
So tell us about Junior Achievement. How did you get to Junior Achievement, and a little bit about this organization?
Well, I've been the president and CEO at Junior Achievement. Now it's I'm going on it'll be 9 years in August.
Oh, wow.
And yes, and it's been a fantastic journey, a very hard journey. I'll share that, but a fantastic one. When I came on board, it was, I could say a couple of years after the Great Recession. A lot of nonprofits were really hurting in our community, and especially Junior Achievement, because it's very tied to corporate America. A lot of what we do at Junior Achievement is teach business practices. So we base everything we do on 3 pillars of our educational experience. We focus on financial literacy. We teach financial literacy K through 12. We also teach workforce preparedness or work readiness, career readiness, as well as entrepreneurship. We do this in K through 12 classrooms, mainly in the Charlotte metropolitan area, but we also serve 3 counties in South Carolina. And then we kind of serve around what we call the contiguous counties around Mecklenburg County, but we also have a presence in Wilmington and also a presence in Asheville.
Wow.
And so we serve a lot of students. We served pre-COVID, and on our pathway, our goal, our vision was to serve 100,000 students, but pre-COVID last year, we were at 55,000 students.
Oh, that's a lot.
We do this all through the use of volunteers. So we actually work with volunteers from the corporate community we train them, and then they deliver our curriculums in the classroom.
Well, that's interesting. So you've got, K through 12, that's quite a range of students. I mean, that's a lot of, you've got 5-year-olds who've just come out of preschool to obviously, 12th graders who are looking to go into college. I'd just be curious just to know what are some, what does the programming look for, say, someone in the kindergarten, 1st grade range versus maybe someone in the middle school range to somebody in the, junior or senior?
Well, the way that we actually deliver our curriculum is that we work with school systems. So we work with instance with CMS. And so we'll work with a school. Okay. So like hypothetically, if your kids go to Old Providence Elementary, which is where my children went to school, we would work with different grade levels. So for instance, you would work with all kindergartners within that school. So if you had 4 or 5 classrooms, you teach all of those students that one curriculum. So our curriculums are follow state standards and Department of Public Instruction standards.
Mm.
So they're actually complementary to many things that teachers would want to teach in the classroom. And so kindergarten through fifth grade, all of the curriculums are based on age group. So they're not interchangeable. So that means if you're in kindergarten, you get the the kindergarten curriculum. And if you're in fifth grade, you get the fifth grade curriculum. Middle school and high school are interchangeable. So our middle school programs are interchangeable between sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And then our high school programs are all interchangeable. Anyone that's in ninth grade can take any one of our classes or our courses at our high school level. We also have two programs, which are everything we do is called hands-on experiential learning. So when you go into the classroom, we train our volunteers to actually learn how to teach a concept and then actually do a project with the students in every single class that we do. So we provide you the materials for that, and we provide all of this for free to all of our classrooms that we work with. And so, but we have two very special programs where the students actually, it's about 20 hours in total of curriculum. One of them is called JA BizTown and the other is called JA Finance Park. And the reason that these programs are very special is because the teacher actually delivers the curriculum in the classroom, but then they come to our facility that we just built. We're about 2 years old in Camp North End. And at this facility, we have what's called a capstone. It's an end cap to that experience where the student actually becomes, they get involved in that position. So for instance, BizTown. BizTown is all about the world of work. There are 150 jobs in BizTown. There are 18 companies represented in JA BizTown. And these companies basically represent companies that are here in Charlotte. So we have Regions Bank is in there. We have a Microsoft storefront. We have a Chick-fil-A. We have the Business Journal. There's an Allstate and Sunbelt Rentals. These companies that are also here in Charlotte have a branded storefront in this facility. And what we do is actually teach kids how to go to work. What does it look like to go to work? So every different company has different positions that the kids actually apply for. They interview for that job. They elect a mayor and they do all of these things before they come. And then when they're there on site, it's what's called a hands-on simulation, where they actually go through what it's like to be a CEO for a day, or a CFO for the day, or an HR manager for the day within that company. And so it's very real world. It looks real world. It feels real world. And the exercises that they go through are very real. So they get a paycheck. They actually have to balance their personal checkbook.
Wow.
This is for fifth graders. They also have to balance their corporate checkbook. They understand, this is the first time where they actually understand when they receive a paycheck that they actually pay taxes, that FICA is not another employee. FICA is actually a tax. They learn about taxation. They learn the benefits of taxation and why do we actually tax. And they learn all of the things that are important as you start to investigate the kind of career that you would like to have. So this is our first foray into helping our youth understand their skills, talents, and abilities as they create what's called a career pathway for themselves as they move through their middle and high school years and then on to their career.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because, I think if you were to, and even myself at times, you wonder, you look back at your schooling, right? And you think, why didn't they never teach me this? Like I learned calculus or I learned, algebraic equations, but somehow I never learned, how to balance my own checkbook or what is a contract or what is things that get a lot of young people in trouble as soon as they kind of come out of high school and they enter into the workforce or just, maybe they didn't even go to college. They get into their first lease and they're just trying to work and trying to figure out how to make more money to not, lose enough money to like stay in your housing or something like that. So that's really good. So I think I just want to kind of clarify. So obviously junior achievement, it sounds like you guys are definitely really linked to whatever school system that you are involved with. So that's a critical partner. So it's not, so do you have programs where if maybe the school system, so if someone isn't involved with that particular school system, do you have any direct entry type of programs for students who are not part of, say, CMS? Maybe they're in Rowan County where I am, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep, so we do. Now, Rowan County might be a little bit challenging for them to
Mhm.
actually come to the facility, but we
I
can
see.
actually deliver curriculum to Rowan County. And what's happened during COVID is that because we do a lot of our work face to face, we really had not taken a deep dive into digital in distance learning. COVID has really forced us to make a pivot, and
Mhm.
everything we've delivered this year has been digital curriculum.
Mhm.
So we're now able to deliver curriculum to Rowan County by using volunteers from
Okay.
anywhere in the United States. So for instance, one of our partners is Sunbelt Rentals. They're
Mhm.
headquartered here, but we actually have utilized volunteers from Texas, which right now, it's not warm in Texas
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're
no,
worried about their own issues. But we utilize volunteers from all over the United States,
Mhm.
even crossing time zones to help us deliver some of our curriculum because the companies really embrace what we're doing and what we're teaching. So we can deliver curriculum to Rowan County, but normally the way that that works is that it's a teacher would ask for it or a principal of a school would ask for that. And then we
Mhm.
would then set up and deliver that into the classroom.
So let's look into that. So so obviously if you're with CMS, and CMS is huge, I mean,
Mhm.
or huge, it's a very large school system and many different schools, and obviously you're in the K through 12, so pretty much any school is game in CMS, which I don't even know how to count how many schools are in the CMS system. Maybe you know the
There's
number.
like 160 total.
Okay,
I mean,
160.
and it changes and it
Mhm.
varies. It varies. Yes, there's a lot.
So how does a school, so I guess my question is, one, how does a interested school, is it say a teacher who drives it? Is a principal who drives the connection to JA or? Mhm.
Both. It just depends. In
Okay.
elementary school, a lot of times what we do and the way we deliver in elementary is called a JA in a day. So one of our
Hmm.
biggest partners, for instance, is Bank of America. Bank
Okay.
of America will adopt an entire school. Um,
Okay.
and then what they do is they'll go in and one day they'll teach junior achievement from kindergarten up through fourth grade. Fifth
Okay.
grade will then go to BizTown. And so basically it's driven by both what the school would like to have and then
Mhm.
also what the corporate partner would like to do. Some corporate partners are a lot smaller, so we'll pair corporate partners together,
Mhm.
and those corporate partners will then deliver the curriculum with another company in a school depending on the size. We also work with community partners. We work with the YMCA. We work with
Mhm.
communities in schools. We work with MEC Ed. They also identify students that need extra help because a lot of our focus is working on the LMI, which is your low to moderate income schools or your Title
Mhm.
I schools.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of work in those Title I schools, both the elementary, middle, and high schools that have low to moderate income needs. And we spend a lot of time. And part of this is because what research and science has shown us and studies have shown us is that knowing how to manage your personal finance and having economic financial literacy is absolutely essential for economic mobility. And
Mm.
so you really need to understand how to manage your personal finances to actually move to create wealth and move yourself out of poverty. And so it's an essential. And so
Mhm.
many of our students, it doesn't matter which background you come from, we hear it all the time. So many of our students graduate without having that component. Now, it is a mandatory law that
Mm.
was passed. I think it was passed last year,
Hmm.
where before you graduate from high school, you do have to have a full course of financial literacy.
Okay.
The challenge that we have right now is that it's, even taking it in a full course, it's not creating a habit. And
Mm.
so the way that Junior Achievement delivers our curriculum is called career pathways.
Mm.
What we do is we work with students at different sections of their life cycle in education to make sure that they're getting some information around financial literacy. So it really becomes more habitual in terms of understanding. And so we start early in the early years. We work on them in middle school, and then we work on them with high school.
Mm.
And what we really want is to touch a child 4 to 5 times with junior achievement curriculum, so that by the time they graduate, they are financially literate. They understand, for instance, they understand the value of credit. They understand
Mhm.
how to build credit. They understand, debits and credits. They understand delayed gratification. They also understand investments, because we know that these are things that are going to create generational wealth. And also they understand the value of purchasing versus leasing automobiles, homes, all of those things, and they can actually create a personalized budget based on their income. And so these are skills and tools that kids need to have, in addition to understanding how to create a resume, interview for a job, and really develop those soft skills that are essential for someone to be successful in our world.
Okay, yeah. So it sounds like so I mentioned it, and I thought this was an interesting sort of nugget of that you said. It was like that children or students with financial literacy, it is essential for upward and social mobility, because obviously it's
Is
no secret in the city of Charlotte that hanging over the head of the city of Charlotte has been this Dr. Chetty study for I don't know how long, which basically says Charlotte is what's it? Is it the city that's 50 out of 50 and the county that's 49 out of 50? Or it's not a good place to be either,
right.
one or the other. And has junior achievement been able to see a lot of support, particularly given the link of, financial literacy in our youth and to social mobility? Have you been able to, has that been able to translate into increased support from some of the, like maybe the corporate park folks here in town, or some of the other policymakers or such, or has that allowed more entry into schools, particularly in the CMS, since the Chetty study? I'm just wondering if it had any effect or not.
Well, it's interesting. If we're going to talk about, correlations, we started our capital campaign to build our building about 3 years ago, which is very soon after we had the Chetty study came out, and then the recommendations, the Leading on Opportunity
Mm-hmm.
group made their recommendations to the community. There are about 15 that really fit our mission of junior achievement, and I'm pretty solid when it comes to not mission creeping and trying to make something fit. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
what we do is really unique,
Mm-hmm.
and the number of students that we serve is also very vast. I don't think we need to go mission creep and find more to do. As a matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, I say no to a lot of different things because we just can't manage that. But what I would tell you is that the corporate support has been extensive. If you go into our facility and you take a look, we have 36 companies who are represented in our building. SteelFab, Ally Bank, SPX Flow, Felix Sabatis, Mercedes is our car store in our finance park program. We have Sunbelt Rentals, Allstate, State Farm, Novant. Atrium is looking to also move into our facility. Our facility is basically almost full. Every different option that we have, and a space for a company has basically been filled, because they see the value of they're investing in what we're doing, but then B, also providing a place for their company to follow and volunteer. So we work with 4,500 volunteers to deliver curriculum every single year, pre-COVID and after COVID. During COVID, it's a lot different because we're delivering digitally, and the volunteer opportunities aren't quite as vast. But we are still utilizing a lot of volunteer support for the different things that we're doing, digitally. But in a given year where we have the kids back in school and they're coming on site to our campus, we could use every volunteer that you could possibly give us to deliver our curriculum.
Well, definitely, I definitely keep the idea of volunteers, because definitely at the end, we're going to obviously put it back out to the folks out there who are maybe interested in getting involved with junior achievement as well. So let's go back to kind of what we kind of were brought here. Obviously, I think we've got a great understanding of what the pre-COVID landscape of junior achievement has been, but maybe we can get a little bit in the time machine and tell us what was going on with junior achievement in, say, March of 2020, and talk about how junior achievement sort of engaged the pandemic, and what sort of changes that you had to do, whether it was internally from the staff to obviously how you were delivering programs, because as you mentioned, much of it is experiential, right? And I know a little bit about experiential learning because at the law school I was a clinical professor, and so our whole basis was not just teaching you what happened in this case. It was truly like, you have a live client, you better serve this client, it's my license on the line, you better do it right. And so they learn by serving, right? And they learn by the feedback the client gives them, and everything else. And so with that experiential model, how were you able to adapt? Because obviously we're here, you've adapted, but we'd love to know what happened.
Well, it's interesting. When you take a look at what happened in March, we were in a staff meeting one day, and the next day we decided to disband and start to work from home. We thought we were going to be home for a couple weeks, and so we were prepared to be home for a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I can honestly tell you, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed at all. I went to my husband, who's actually been he works in technology, and he has teams all over the world that he works with for his company. And so I said, we're going to be working from home, help me write a policy. So I actually wrote a full-fledged policy before even doing this, and set up and established a system of communication, even for if it was only going to be for 2 weeks. And that was maybe you can call that a divine moment, because without that, I think we would have had a lot of chaos, and we wouldn't have been able to pivot as quickly. But because we had an established protocol, everyone knew what the expectation was, we went home and we went to work. And we decided to deliver all of our curriculum that we possibly could for the rest of the school year, because we closed the facility
Mm-hmm.
because school closed. So everything closed. And our busiest time of year is actually from March until June. That we're full every single day. So instead, what we did was offer all of our materials and curriculums for free to teachers and to parents, because we knew that parents were the ones who were home with their students.
Mm-hmm.
And we were really trying to provide that with material and information, and just ways for them to engage their students, because everyone was trying to figure this out. And so JAUSA, which is our parent organization, was very helpful in helping us really create a platform that we were able to send out information to all of our constituents, and share that information. So we did a lot of media and shared our information, just letting people know that we were there to support. And then over the summer, we actually did a summer camp program, which was called Tomorrow's Virtual Leadership Academy. And we did it all online. We utilized volunteers to teach all of our curriculum. It was a 2-week summer program for middle and high school students. And it was wonderful. And it was a great training ground for us, which actually helped us launch our digital platform for this year. So this year, and when I say this year, we are in a fiscal year. So our year started in July. We're slated to serve about 23,000 students all through distance learning.
Mm-hmm.
And three of our biggest programs that we're doing in the month of March, and then also in April. So we're very busy in the spring, clearly.
Yeah.
When the majority of our programs are taking place, but they're really exciting, and they're all focused on middle and high school students. And the reason why, it's very challenging for young kids who are really young. They can sit on an iPad, but for them to sit in front of a Zoom call is really, really challenging, because we're not able to do the hands-on piece with youth, but we are able to do the hands-on piece with middle and high school students, because a lot of the work that they're doing is actually helping themselves. Every single one of our students that goes through our Pathways to Career program creates a LinkedIn profile. Every single one of them creates a vision board, a pathway plan for the steps they need to take to achieve success in their life. They all do a career assessment, and from that assessment, they actually do investigation as to what would be the next steps for them to, if they chose a specific career field. In addition to that, they all create a resume. So we have a lot of projects that they do, which they're able to do and then come back and share to the group. And we do this all, of course, through Zoom.
Okay. So it sounds like you've had to definitely some adaptations, which I think everybody has had to do. Well, here's a question. Given that you guys are junior achievement, it sounds like it's very linked to the school, right? So the health of the school kind of determines whether things are opening up or not. So I guess my question here is, because of the different models, you've got like full remote, you've got hybrid, you got some schools open up. How has these sort of, I mean, obviously it's still a bit chaotic, I guess. How have you been able to adapt to it? Have you adapt to the different, I guess, entry points to school with, and for those that have opened up, I mean, really opened up, has your team been going into those kind of places, or you're still keeping them up?
No, schools are not allowing volunteers in.
Okay.
So during COVID, and even if their kids are in school, they're not allowing volunteers to enter. They're not even allowing parents to enter into school. So the way we've entered a classroom is through Zoom or through the smart board. So if all the students are in the class, where we can have a volunteer enter in through Zoom and teach the entire class
Mhm.
that way. We also have kids dial in through different programs. So we have a number of programs. A couple of things have changed. Um, our programs usually are a lot longer in length, so we can take deep dives into different topics and situations. We have not been able to take the deep dive. And so what we've done is we've condensed our programs and we've put them out over longer periods of time. So for instance, a normal 4-hour class, we would do it over 2 sessions
Mhm.
because kids just lose sight of being on Zoom for longer than that. The other
Mhm.
thing we've done is we have used celebrities. We have a very great panel of former professional football players who actually love financial literacy. It's what they're interested
Can
in.
you share some names? Who's on your bench?
Niall Diggs has done a lot for us, and so Niall's done quite a bit for us, and done a lot of what we call career speaker series, where
Okay.
we actually provide a panel of people to speak about a topic, and then the students will dial in and be able to ask questions through utilizing the chat function on a Zoom call. So a lot of it is controlled. We don't just allow people to just kind of shout out. We really have the students use the chat function.
Mhm.
But they've been very successful, especially with older students. What we found is that teachers don't have the time or the capacity or the inclination to do a 4-hour course, but if we break it up into smaller bite-sized chunks, they're more inclined to participate, just because they have so much more on their plate as they try to
Mhm.
deliver their curriculum in an awkward environment, especially for younger kids. It's very challenging to keep kids enthralled in education through Zoom.
Mhm.
Yes,
Cool.
it's hard.
Cool. Well, here's kind of sort of a question here, and maybe something that because I live here in Rowan County, I mean, I commute to Charlotte whenever I have to, but in our county, our school went through, I guess, not an upheaval, but a renewal thing where basically, I guess we were sort of low performing. That our school system actually asked Raleigh, because everything got to go through Raleigh in this state. It's just if you learn anything from here, don't do anything without running by Raleigh because they'll get you. Is that it took them off sort of the hard standardized testing, kind of regime, right? And many of the tier 1 schools or tier 2, they when you do that sort of, I think they're the only school system in the state has done this, but it does sound like they are able to open up to more experiential, learning things and that such. And so my question here would be, and maybe it's something that maybe Junior Achievement has been looking at, is do you foresee, at least with the powers of be, it's Raleigh or such, do you see them maybe either allowing more schools to maybe allow more junior, because it sounds like you kind of have to ask permission to sort of be in part of the curriculum, where really arguably, I think many people, I think lay people who have just had life experience would say, it sounds like this should be part of the actual curriculum, or at least should be more part of it. And so do you see any kind of inklings that of more opening up of different school systems to allowing this type of experiential education as part of the full curriculum? Or do you think it'd be sort of more as a sort of an elective at best, or something like that?
Well, we are working right now on a different curriculum at the high school level that would become part of the curriculum for students. And then we have a full semester of financial literacy curriculum
Mhm.
should a teacher want to utilize that. What I would say to you is that what we're teaching it. So when you go to school, you're
Mhm.
learning math and science and writing, all the things that you need to learn to function in the everyday world. What Junior Achievement teaches, we come alongside that and we show you, why is writing essential? Why is writing essential? Because if you've ever had children and they've ever said to you, why do I have to learn all this stuff?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
I hear it
understand
all
why
the
I
time.
have to learn this. What we do is we say, well, this is why you're learning math. Because if you're a CEO of a company, you have to learn to pay bills. You have to learn to understand how these things work out. When my son was doing algorithms and he was learning how to do algorithms, he's like, Dad, I don't understand why I have to do this. And my husband, who works in technology, is like, I do this every day. You're learning this because these are the things you need to learn for the jobs of the future. So what Junior Achievement's sweet spot is taking what a student is learning in the classroom, and then we
Mhm.
wrap that around real world experience so that the kid can have an aha moment to say,
Mhm.
oh, now I understand. Or a lot of times too, what happens with kids, what we found, especially with younger kids, is they might have had a bad experience in school. It just could have been a relationship with a teacher, or it could have been something, that happens in life. But
Mhm.
it leaves them feeling badly, for instance, about math. Well, they hate math because they might have had a bad experience. They were bullied in a classroom, something happened to them. But when they come to junior achievement, what they find is that if they're in a CEO or a CFO position and they're using math, they find they're good with numbers. They realize that maybe it's not just math that they don't like. They really do enjoy numbers and they're good with
Mhm.
numbers. And it gives them the impetus to kind of go back and
Mhm.
tackle that. And I think a lot of times what junior achievement, you can't quantify this, but
Mhm.
but our experiences are transformational for kids because it helps them understand something that sometimes is difficult to articulate, even as adults. What am I good at?
Mhm.
What does success look like for me? And we really push our students to understand that and to take some tests. Like we have what's called the JA Career Profiler that really helps them identify the strengths and skills and things that they're innately good at, and then provide them opportunities to investigate those career pathways.
Mhm.
And so these are really important discoveries for our youth, so that they're not wandering aimlessly, just trying to figure out that pathway for them. They're actually honing in on what they're good at, what they have a passion for. Because as we all know, when we become
Mhm.
adults and we go to work, we go through tests and we take trainings and we learn all of these things in the professional field so that we can be successful on the job. And we're trying to do that early with our youth, because
Mhm.
you were right, Rocky. You mentioned one thing that kids do. You mentioned kids going on to their post-secondary education. It's one of the most expensive endeavors that a child will go through, other than purchasing a home. It's
Mhm.
the most expensive thing, most likely, that they're going to finance. And they're making these decisions when they are a junior and senior in high school with
Mhm.
zero capability to understand on the back end the financial implications of what they're
Mhm.
doing. This is why you see a lot of our kids
Mhm.
working at retail at the mall with $100,000 in debt,
That's
because
insane.
they didn't plan. And so, the saying, without a plan, you plan to fail. So what we're really trying to do is open up that gamut of what that planning may look like for thousands of
Mhm.
students. Do this, though, in a very unique and individualistic way,
Mhm.
utilizing volunteers to teach very vetted and tried and tested curriculum that we
Mhm.
know transforms lives.
Yeah, I'll say this. This is me on my little soapbox. Is that I think that when you mention like algebra, math, and writing, these are obviously essential. But I've always been of the understanding that many of that the intentional selection of courses that are placed in particularly high school, but even before, is all to lead towards post-secondary, all to lead towards college. These are the skills that will help you in college. Obviously, financial literacy, if you're still living with mom and dad, you don't necessarily need, or you take a student loan out, you may not necessarily need that. But I think that what I like about, among the type of things that you have explained today about junior achievement is that it gives it gives some self-defense skills. It gives self-defense skills, period, for all the students. But I think particularly those who may not necessarily be either ready, suited, or really desire to go to college. And I think that might be one of the, and this, as a former educator in higher education, I taught in ABA law school for 5 years. It's one of the hardest things that I had to kind of, sort of swallow in the last number of years, is that college isn't for everybody. And it's, and if anything, with the mounting debt that's there, college could be the worst thing that could happen to somebody, and
I would agree. And for a lot of students, they actually go to school, they don't graduate, and they end up with significant debt because it probably was not the best choice for them. And what we really try to do at Junior Achievement is open up all of the opportunities that are open for students. So there's a lot of opportunity, for instance, in the going into the healthcare, but not necessarily having to go to college. Maybe get a
Mhm.
certification. CPCC is one of our partners. They
Yeah.
actually have a business inside of Finance Park. Now, I
Hmm.
didn't tell you about Finance Park. Finance Park is actually our high school program where the
Okay.
students actually come and do a simulation where they're given a job, they're given a salary for that job, they're given a credit score and a life scenario, and then they have to work through their budgeting process, 19 different steps of their budgeting process, with this life scenario that they cannot change. It's very challenging and difficult. But then the final part of their experience at Finance Park is to go through a career assessment and really understand not only the value of money, but the value of money tied to a job or a career. And so we also show them, the careers in the trades. We have Lowe's is one of our partners, and in there they have the tools for the trades, and so kids can really see that if you get involved in the trades and you get involved in plumbing or being an electrician, that there are hundreds of thousands of jobs available for you all across the country, and it makes you very mobile, and you're very employable. And so there are a lot of benefits to showing the kids, and a lot of kids just don't know what those opportunities are ahead of them. And so one of the ways we're doing that digitally is with a program called JA Ignite. It's going to be launched on March 23rd. We're going to have 12,000 students participate in this it's a virtual career fair. It's an online career fair. We have about 70 companies who all have what's called a virtual booth. And the student is going to enter this, it looks like the city of Charlotte, enter this virtual career platform program and be able to go out and actually investigate what does it mean to be involved in these companies, and what are the entry level roles within these companies, or what could be some of the roles that they could grow into if they were to make a career of involvement. For instance, one of them is Walmart. And I love Walmart's story. If you've seen their story on TV, their president and CEO started as a sales associate. He started, as at the register. He's the president of the company. If you look at Lowe's and you look at the story, for instance, of their president and CEO, he has an incredible story. He started in retail. He started in retail at 14 years old, making less than $5 an hour. And Marvin Ellis is a super advocate of junior achievement, and he actually has a video speaking to our students who actually come into Finance Park to prepare them for the fact that not everyone can go to college, and not everyone should, and that there's a ton of variety of opportunity for all students, regardless of what you can afford to do or what you want to do, to be able to be successful in this world. And that's really, I think, very exciting for a lot of these kids who might not have heard that before.
Well, so I think it's fantastic for having programs that simulate sort of like, obviously you're in senior management, and then also sort of the soft skills of working for somebody. But what about some folks who may not want to work for somebody but work for themselves? Do you have pathways to kind of training someone up for maybe entrepreneurship or anything like that?
We do. We teach entrepreneurial skills all throughout almost everything that we do. We start in kindergarten, and we have programs that go all through high school that focus on entrepreneurship. As a matter of fact, every single one of our curriculums focus on workforce preparedness, financial literacy, and how to really generate the entrepreneurial spirit. So we really do encourage kids to think creatively and innovatively about the possibilities for their, taking their skill and creating their own company. To show them how to do that. It's certainly a lot easier in today's day and age than it was, 30 years ago, because of, sales online. And we actually have a program called the JA Company program, where kids can actually create their own business, create a product and sell that product, and create a profit. And we seed that. And so, we have not been able to do that during COVID, because that is a very high touch program. But, that is a program that's actually the foundational program of junior achievement, is our entrepreneurship program.
Gotcha. Well, so let's, I think you've got a great kind of like a deeper dive and such. But let's get back to sort of like we started to show about we're reopening the schools, right? So what does reopening look like to junior achievement? Both internally, you said that everyone disbanded and had to go off. I mean, we are reaching a point where, okay, knock on wood, maybe by summer or fall, we may very well be in a situation where maybe we're still masked, but at least, definitely a lot more of the barriers to interacting are lifted from both business and family and just everything else. What does reopening look like to both, obviously, as a staff, and then also how you've been doing your programming? Are you going to just go right back to full-blown experiential hands-on? Or are you going to do a hybrid, or like, what's your idea of that reopening?
Well, we really work in concert and in partnership with schools. We feel our
Mhm.
job is to support teachers and support what's happening in the classroom. And so as they reopen, we're looking to reopen. Now we realize that students are not going to be on site on our campus this year, and we're not going to have volunteers in the classroom this year. But we are going to be prepared for reopening and receiving students as well as entering into classrooms in the fall. So I feel based on where we're at, I think I was just listening to a news report this morning that 14 million Americans have had both shots for vaccination, and over
Mhm.
55 Americans have had the first shot for vaccination. So, I think it said that we need to be 85% vaccinated, for things to get back to normal. Schools are reopening all across the country. Our governor has reopened schools. As a matter of fact, one is across the street from me, and I was so happy to see school buses there on Monday. And so I think things are really trying to get back to normal. For junior achievement, that's also going to be probably just a slow roll over the summer, trying to figure out what we're going to do over the summer, with hopefully opening full time in the fall.
Mhm.
That's not written in stone. That's just a projection at this point, just based on we're nimble. We've been
Mhm.
nimble, and we can still deliver what we're doing in a digital fashion. But I think digital is here to stay. I think
Mhm.
distance learning is going to be a part of our educational component,
Mhm.
for now until infinity. It's going to happen. It's here. It's going to be a part of what we do. It has been at the college level. My husband was actually one of the first people to receive his MBA digitally many, many years ago.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to become part of our, especially high school educational program. And so we're prepared to deliver both in person and digitally.
Okay. Well, we
Mhm.
are now reaching about 10 minutes towards the end. This is sort of the time where we like to take some questions from folks in the audience. And also, Sarah, if you do have some slides, I'd love if you, particularly if you have a slide about how to contact or how to, because this is the part of the show where I definitely like to make I mean, obviously, you've learned that Junior Achievement is a fantastic nonprofit, is providing something that I think is very needed. Again, school, and this is me on my soapbox again. It does feel that school, in my opinion, schools have been kind of hamstrung in what they can offer, and this sort of teach for the test type of mentality, which I think has kind of captured modern education for a lot longer. And anytime there's opportunities for experiential, practical learning, I'm always for that, because I think that that's a real key. And so hopefully. We'll see some links if you want to
My
donate, because
screen.
obviously you can get obviously they're 501c3, but I think just as important, because of the type of folks who join us here on the leadership series, and maybe Sarah, you can talk about this as well, as volunteer opportunities, because I think many of the folks who, even myself included, because this has actually piqued my interest as well. Many of the folks here who attend here, and again, this episode will be going up on our YouTube channel. So if you think that there are materials or information here that you'd like to share with others who, for whatever reason, either didn't know about today's show or couldn't make it, or there's someone in another state that you'd love to, we do have a YouTube channel, Holland Channel Leadership Series on YouTube, and this will be uploaded in the next 24 to 48 hours. But so Sarah, tell us, if you're a volunteer, how do we do it?
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so basically this is a page on our website. If you go to the top here, you click JA programs. Um, Essentially, this will bring up all of the programs that I was talking about today. So these are all of our programs that we're delivering right now. So coming up is a program called Leading Ladies. It's specific to juniors and senior young women in high school. And we're recruiting companies to participate with us to sponsor this event, as well as engage with these ladies. And that's taking place at the beginning of March. And this is the JA Career Ignite Virtual Career Exploration Fair. So you can sign your kids up if you wanted to. If you click on here, you can go there to sign them up. But if you want to volunteer, you just click on learn how you can volunteer here, and it tells you how to become a mentor. It gives you a video on what that looks like, and it gives you a step-by-step process, which is very simple, and how you can sign up to volunteer. All of our volunteers have to have background checks, so they have to go through a process. You can't just like come in off the street. We drive everyone through our volunteer website. It makes it simpler that way. So if you click get involved, basically there's a lot of places on our button where you can go and find out where to volunteer. So you would click in here, you fill out this information, and then our volunteer manager would respond back to you. And this also gives you an idea where if you want to volunteer with little kids, if you want to volunteer with middle or high school. I always prefer high school students because my kids were older. I like having deeper conversations with kids, but some people are afraid to teach high school. They like to do elementary kids who want to hug you, and they're very sweet and they're fun. And so it just depends on what your comfort level is and really what you want to do. So once you fill this out, we reach back out to you and then we plug you in. If you represent a company and you want to do corporate volunteering, you would just indicate this in the notes, and then we'll also talk with you about what your options are for corporate volunteering as well. And a lot of times people will do it as a team builder. So we're very concierge. Even though we serve a lot of people, we really try to meet your needs. We feel like our duty is really to serve and work and collaborate and partner. So you just need to let us know how you want to do that. So everything would be here on our website. And this will give you a little bit of background information. If you go here, this will tell you, how you volunteer. You begin here. This will, in the front page of our website, really gives you where our focus is right now on our virtual programming. And then also, if you want to partner with us in any other way, you could click here. So I think the website was really the best place to share with you what we're about.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Well, do we have any questions? You can, sometimes we look in the chat, or if there's anything that anyone would just like to share, if you've at this time, this would be a perfect time to do it.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi, Mark.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome, thanks. Hey, are you guys doing tours right now? I mean, are you allowing people to come in and do it? Because the facility there is unbelievable. I don't know if you guys know where it is. Sarah may have said earlier, but it's up there in Camp North End, which is a very developing area, part of town. And they probably have one of the coolest offices you've ever seen when you walk in there. But taking a tour of the facility is, it's worth every second of it. Shannon, you may have went there when we did the CBEX meeting, or I don't know if you were there or not, but I brought a group through there once upon a time. But I highly encourage you guys to check that out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, even though we're officially closed, I've give tours. On Friday, I'm giving 2. So if anybody wanted a tour, if they're comfortable meeting in person, I'm comfortable meeting in person, and I'm happy to give a tour.
Our company participated when you first opened. I'm Alan Marcos with AVP Nationwide Productions. We actually did your cocktail party with the sound system.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Wonderful. Wonderful. That was for our grand opening that we did?
Correct.
Yes, that was so much fun. That was a wonderful event. Thank you for your help with that. We appreciate that.
We also do virtual events, trade shows, meetings, conventions, all virtually also.
Oh, you do?
Throughout the United States.
Okay, that's a good thing to know. We're using a program right now called VFairs for our virtual career fair that we're doing. So this is our first experience utilizing it. It's been quite a learning lesson. It's interesting because even though our mission is the same, the passion is the same, the focus is the same, how we deliver is completely new to us. So it's almost like we're a little startup because we're a very small office serving as many. I mean, when you would think, oh, we're serving 23,000 students, that means a big team. Well, I have 12 people that are full-time on my staff. Actually, they're not all full-time, but 12 people on my staff, and I have 2 contractors right now helping us do all of that. So they're small but mighty.
That's great. Well, we got any other questions? Again, Sarah, thank you for taking the time and discussing, obviously how junior achievement has kind of weathered the pandemic, and of course, as the schools reopen, I think that you'll see more of junior achievement. And again, if you are interested in volunteering for junior achievement or being part of this, because I kind of, what I like about it, I guess, in many respects, is I've always been a fan of sort of outside, learning outside the classroom, sort of like learning about, like the Boys and Girls Club, you learn a lot of different things, sports, you learn you learn different things. And I just can't get over just, we're just such we're in a business law firm. And so we're inundated with contracts and leases and things that are, and many of you are business people, and we're never going to get away from a world. I know there's this movement. You watch any TEDx talk, they'll say, how do we make a contract so thin that you can put it on your hand? And it's not going to work, not in business. That's just not going to happen. And yet we have, young people who are, what's the first major thing they probably sign off on is a student loan, right? And nobody reads that. And a lot of that is just click here, click. And now with DocuSign makes it even so much easier. Now it's just like, I just want to get back to Fortnite. You click, 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 and just get moving with that. And so I think that having, financial literacy and I think that's fascinating about, having a position where they get to role play as a CEO or a CMO or a CEO or whatever other C-suite type of, C-suite type of person, and as well as middle management or whatever to kind of, it's sort of like, if I can see it, I can envision it, I can play the role. One day I can become that role. It's not a foreign or a alien idea, right? And I think with imagination and such, I think that even though it seems like, well, they're just going to be business people, but the idea here is that people can use their imagination and bring who they are unique to these roles. And that's going to kind of be good for, I think, the future of what we're doing here at the state and in this country, as far as like how we run our businesses and our nonprofits and our government and such. So I just like to thank Junior Achievement for doing all of that. And I thank everybody else here for taking time out of your busy work week to join us here on Zoom, which is the new normal. And I one day maybe we'll have a different format for this, but just get used to the Hollywood Squares aspect. I'm showing my age here of this for the foreseeable future. So on behalf of the law firm Mulholland Chandler and my boss Shannon, just like to thank you all for joining us, and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Rocky. Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, Rocky. Good
Thank
seeing you
you.
guys.
Bye, Mark.
See you,
Take
Sarah.
care.
I see you soon.